Imagine standing in a room full of powerful people. Every word, every glance, every silence is a move on a board you can't afford to lose. In that moment, intelligence alone won't save you. Emotions betray. Truth bends. And only one thing matters: the ability to think 10 moves ahead. What if there was a way to train your mind to do exactly that? A mental blueprint so sharp, it turns ordinary thought into strategic brilliance. This isn't fantasy. It's a brain hack discovered centuries ago by one man, Niccolo Machiavelli. And once you understand his ruthless secret, you'll see how to outthink, outplay, and outsmart almost anyone. Machiavelli wasn't just a philosopher. He was a strategist who lived through one of the most dangerous times in history. Renaissance Italy, a world where alliances could collapse overnight, and betrayal was a currency of survival. He studied power the way scientists study atoms, dissecting human motives, exposing hidden weaknesses, and discovering how leaders rise or fall based on how they think. His writings weren't moral lessons. They were survival codes. And within those pages lies a mental framework, so precise, it can rewire how your brain processes decisions. Today, we call it a brain hack. But Machiavelli didn't use flashy words. He lived it. When others followed their feelings, he followed patterns. When others reacted, he calculated. His secret wasn't cruelty, it was clarity. He saw that most people are ruled by impulses, not reason, by emotion, not insight. And he realized that if you could break that pattern, if you could see the hidden motives behind people's actions, you'd gain the rarest kind of intelligence, strategic intelligence. In this video, you'll learn how Machiavelli's ruthless way of thinking can make you 10 times smarter. Not in memorizing facts or solving puzzles, but in how you read people, plan moves, and control outcomes. You'll see how this mindset has shaped history, how modern leaders still use it today, and how you can apply it to your own mind. Because true intelligence isn't about knowing everything, it's about knowing what matters most, and acting before others even realize what's happening. But before you dismiss this as just another self-help trick, let's go deeper. You'll discover that Machiavelli wasn't teaching manipulation. He was teaching awareness. He exposed how people deceive themselves, how emotions cloud judgment, and how comfort dulls ambition. His ruthless secret was actually psychological precision, understanding human nature so deeply that you could predict it. And the moment you can predict, you control.
Think about that. Imagine entering any situation, a job interview, a negotiation, a relationship, and instantly recognizing the hidden game being played. You sense motives. You read reactions. You move like a chess master, while others play checkers. That's what Machiavelli's brain hack does. It doesn't just make you smarter, it makes you dangerous in the best possible way. Aware, strategic, unshakable.
As you watch this video, you'll see how to apply Machiavelli's mental principles to everyday life, how to train your perception, sharpen your reasoning, and replace emotional chaos with focused calculation. You understand why intelligence isn't luck, but design, and by the end, you'll walk away with a mindset that can change how you make decisions forever. So stay with me till the end, because every minute reveals a deeper layer of this forgotten wisdom. Wisdom powerful enough to transform the way you think, act, and win. This isn't just about Machiavelli's history. It's about unlocking the code inside your own brain. Welcome to Psych Algorithm, where ancient strategy meets modern intelligence. If you're ready to upgrade how your mind works and learn the secrets that most people will never even notice, then make sure you subscribe right now, because what you're about to learn will not only make you smarter, it will make you untouchable. Before we talk about the hack itself, we need to face a hard truth. Most people don't actually think, they react. Their minds are like mirrors, reflecting everything that happens around them, but never creating on their own. Wake up, check the phone, scroll through chaos, react. Someone criticizes them, They defend. Something goes wrong. They panic. Every thought, every move, controlled by something outside them. It feels normal because everyone does it, but that's exactly the trap. The more you react, the less you control, and slowly your mind stops being a weapon and becomes a shield, always protecting, never attacking. Machiavelli saw this pattern 500 years ago. He watched leaders fall, not because they were weak, but because they were predictable. They were too busy responding to fires to realize who was lighting them. He understood that the reactive mind is the easiest to manipulate. When you're ruled by impulses, anyone who can trigger those impulses rules you. That's why he wrote, "The man who cannot master fortune will be mastered by it." And by fortune, he didn't mean luck. He meant chaos, the constant storm of change that tests your control. Our brains evolved to react. When danger appeared, reaction meant survival. But what kept our ancestors alive now keeps most people trapped. The modern world runs on distraction. Every notification, every outrage, every breaking story is a weapon designed to hijack your attention. The result, a mind constantly jumping from thought to thought, problem to problem, never staying long enough to think strategically. You start mistaking movement for progress, emotion for clarity, noise for truth. Machiavelli would call that mental weakness, not as an insult, but as a diagnosis. He believed power belonged to those who could observe without being pulled in. The observer, not the participant, controls the game, because when you're calm while everyone else reacts, you can see the hidden motives behind the chaos. You can see how people are driven not by logic, but by fear, ego, and desire. That's what Machiavelli mastered, seeing what others refused to see because they were too emotional to look. Think about how this works in your own life. When someone insults you, your mind instantly flares with emotion. You want to prove them wrong, defend yourself, get even. But in that moment, they own you. They control your next move. Without lifting a finger, the smarter person, the Machiavellian thinker, pauses. They step back and ask, why now? What's their aim? That small delay between reaction and response is where intelligence grows. It's the difference between being manipulated and being in control. This is why most people never reach their potential. They believe intelligence means having more information. It doesn't. It means having more control. Control over thoughts. Control over emotions. Control over what deserves attention and it doesn't. When you live in reactive mode, your brain becomes a battlefield. Every opinion, every headline, every voice is fighting for space in your head. But Machiavelli would remind you, no one can win a war if they don't control the ground they're standing on. He knew that the mind must be trained like a ruler trains an army, with discipline and purpose. The ruler who can't command his own soldiers will lose his kingdom. The thinker who can't command his own will lose his power. And yet this is how most of us live, slaves to circumstance, puppets pulled by invisible strings. The tragedy is, people mistake this constant reaction for being busy, for caring, for staying informed. But in reality, they're just exhausting their focus, the one resource that defines how far their intelligence can go. To escape this trap, Machiavelli believed one must build an inner fortress, a place in the mind untouched by chaos. From there, you can observe, decide, and act without interference. That's the real foundation of the brain hack. Because until you stop reacting to everything, you can't see clearly enough to control anything. Before you reach for an app or a supplement, let's pause and shift the lens. What if the real hack isn't external at all? Not a gadget, not a pill, but a complete mindset transformation. One that molds your brain into a strategic instrument, tuned not for distraction or reaction, but for purpose and control. That's the essence of what Niccolo Machiavelli understood centuries ago. He didn't hand out formulas for charisma or manipulation. He handed out a way of thinking, one you can apply to your brain and your life. The trick lies in adopting Machiavelli's style of strategic thinking. Imagine treating your mind as a game board, your decisions as moves, and your environment as a player you must anticipate rather than follow. When you think this way, intelligence isn't about memorizing facts. It's about reading patterns. It's about seeing what's not said, predicting what's coming, leveraging what you have, and staying clear when most minds cloud over with impulse, emotion, or bias. That is the hack, a mindset shift. It's not passive, it's active. It requires you to step into a position of authority over your own brain. And here's why it works. Modern neuroscience backs the idea that your brain is not fixed. The wiring inside you can change. The pathways you use often become the default. But if you shift how you approach problems, what you pay attention to, and how you engage with your environment, you can reshape your brain's responses. Studies out of Duke University found that people who imagined planning a future task, rather than reacting in the moment, had significantly better memory and longer-term learning outcomes. Their brain was more engaged, less frantic. That's cognitive plasticity in action. Your brain isn't just predisposed, it's adaptable. You become the strategist of your own neural architecture. Now let's break down the 4 key components of Machiavellian thinking: clear, applicable, and powerful. Each one rewires your approach. First, see the full board. Machiavelli taught that a leader must observe the entire field, all players, all forces, consequences, and possibilities. In brain terms, this means you train your mind to widen its view. Don't just react to the conversation you're in. Take the scene behind the words. Don't just solve the immediate problem. Map the implications 3 steps later. You're not trapped in the moment. You're surveying the field. From this vantage, you spot patterns others miss. You pick up on what gives and what takes. You notice the tacit rules. You become aware of the architecture, not just the puzzle pieces. Second, predict moves ahead. This is anticipation. Much like a chess master anticipates an opponent's response before making a move, you train your mind to project outcomes. If you say this, what vision follows? If you wait, what changes? If you leverage this resource, what opens? Neuroscience shows that when you engage in future planning mode rather than immediate reaction mode, you activate different brain circuits, ones that support depth, memory, control. Machiavelli's survivors weren't the strongest armed. They were the thinkers who saw around corners. You can become the same. Third, use leverage. Machiavelli viewed power not as brute force, but as resourcefully directed influence. Networks, hidden wings, ideas, alliance. For your brain, leverage means using what you already have. Your habits, your strengths, your relationships to move faster, smarter, further. It's not about doing everything. It's about doing what shifts the game. When your brain works this way, you conserve mental energy for high-impact moves. You skip the busy work. You skip the noise. You focus on the leverage point, and you notice opportunities where others see only clutter. Fourth, accept ruthless clarity. This doesn't mean becoming harsh or unethical. It means refusing the soft illusions. Machiavelli insisted. See the world how it is, not how you wish it'd be. With your brain, this means you cut through fluff, emotional mirages, and excuses. You ask, what's true here? What's working? What isn't? You allow yourself to operate in clarity and decisive thought. This clarity invites discipline. Without it, your brain gets trapped in wishful loops. With it, you direct it. When you combine all 4, broad vision, anticipation, leverage, clarity, your brain shifts from being a passenger to being the driver. It begins to act strategically rather than reactively. With this mindset, you're not waiting for change. You're creating it. You're not being shaped by circumstances. You're shaping them. The wiring in your mind doesn't just passively receive, it actively adapts. It doesn't just respond, it predicts. And it doesn't just accumulate data, it uses it. In that shift you become smarter, not just in knowledge, but in action. The kind of intelligence that wins games, builds empires, and steers moments. A Machiavellian mind, applied to your own brain. Before you do anything else, start with curiosity. Ask small, practical questions. What is really happening here? Who benefits if this goes wrong? What are people afraid to say out loud? Curiosity is not idle wondering. It is a surgical tool. It forces you to look beneath the surface, to notice the pattern no one else names. Begin each situation by looking, not reacting. Observe the tone, the timing, the gaps between words. Write down the facts you can prove. The habit of noting small truths trains your mind to ignore noise and latch onto the signal. Next, map possible moves. Think like a player laying out options on a board. For every action you consider, sketch 3 likely responses. If you speak now, who gains and who loses? If you wait, what changes? If you create an offer, who can block it? This mapping is not guessing, it's disciplined projection. Use simple columns. Action, likely response, best outcome, worst outcome. Don't overcomplicate. The aim is to see consequences before you commit. When you can foresee 3 steps, you reduce surprise. Surprise is the enemy of control. Choose leverage points. Small inputs that cause large shifts. Machiavelli taught rulers to aim for the pivot, not grind endlessly. Find the lever in any situation. It might be a single question that reveals a motive. It might be a reputation you can protect or a relationship you can call on. It might be timing, acting an hour earlier or later. Leverage is not force. It is selection. Use less energy for more effect. When you hunt for leverage, you conserve mental bandwidth. You focus on the moves that multiply return. That is how smart people work. Not by doing more, but by doing what moves the board. Execute with discipline and reflection. A plan is useless without action. Make a choice. Act with clarity and speed. Then, after the move, reflect. What happened? What did you miss? Did your map it this reaction? Reflection is where learning happens. Keep a short log. The move. The outcome. One insight. Over time, these small records reshape your intuition. You begin to recognize patterns faster. Your brain learns not by random practice, but by targeted feedback. That feedback loop is the engine of the hack. Now, what does 10x smarter mean in this context? It is not a claim about raw IQ. It's not about scoring higher on a test or memorizing facts. It's a multiplier of strategic intelligence. 10 times smarter means seeing connections others miss. It means cutting decision time without cutting accuracy. It means turning a single insight into many gains. If most people move in straight lines, a 10x smarter mind bends space. It jumps between fields, links weak signals, and finds shortcuts. You think fewer moves, but better moves. You sense leverage where others see toil. This kind of intelligence delivers practical speed. You make decisions faster because you can anticipate outcomes. You save time because you don't chase every problem. You gain influence because your moves are effective. Tenfold doesn't mean you literally triple your cognition overnight. It means your results, influence, and efficiency scale dramatically compared to the baseline of reactionary behavior. Someone who works twice as hard still follows the noise. Someone who is 10 times smarter works on the right things, in the right order, with the right pressure. Compare it to brute force. Working harder is effort. Being strategic is craft. If you pour more hours into a leaking bucket, you will tire and remain wet. If you plug the hole, you solve the problem. That is the essence of leverage and anticipation. A person who thinks strategically wins the same game with less exhaustion. This is the real brain hack. Not grinding more neurons, but pruning the wrong ones and wiring the right ones. Ethics matters here, because Machiavellian language triggers images of cruelty and cunning. Acknowledge that. The word ruthless is a blunt tool. It can cut both ways. What we woe is clarity, not cruelty. The aim is to be honest about causes and effects, to act decisively when necessary, and to refuse self-deception. That does not license harm. It does not justify manipulation for its own sake. The ethical Machiavellian is strategic and principled. You can be effective without cruelty by applying boundaries, transparency where possible, and responsibility where power grows. Also beware of moral laziness. Strategy without ethics becomes tyranny. Always test your moves against a simple standard. Would I accept this action if I were on the receiving end? If the answer is no, rethink. Strategy is a tool. Character is the direction you point it. Use the clarity you gain to do less damage and more work that matters. Being strategic should increase long-term trust, not erode it. Another common misuse is mistaking superficial brain hacks for the real thing. Pills, endless supplements, flashy apps, and viral tricks promise quick fixes. They rarely deliver lasting change. The kind of rewiring you discuss needs consistent practice. Neuroplasticity is real, but it requires focused repetition and meaningful feedback. Shortcuts that bypass effort create dependency, not skill. The real hack is patient. It grows through deliberate mapping, leverage, and reflection. That is where long-term advantage arises. To make this concrete, consider a chess player. The novice reacts to threats. A rook is taken. They panic. The master sees the board. She sacrifices a pawn to create a long-term weakness. Her moves are guided by patterns she has rehearsed. She anticipates 3 moves ahead and steers the game into positions she prefers. That mastery is not raw intelligence alone. It is practice shaped by feedback, pattern recognition, and an eye for leverage. The same principles apply off the board. Imagine a leader negotiating a deal. Most negotiators respond to offers, counter-offers, and emotions. A strategic negotiator maps the alternatives. She knows which concession is cheap but valuable, which point is symbolic, and which lever, financial, reputational, or timing, will close the gap. She uses silence as a tool, not a weakness. She times proposals to exploit the other side's scarcity or deadline pressure. Her intelligence is visible in outcome, not in rhetoric. Think of a person managing their career. Instead of chasing every certification and job opening like a cursor on a screen, they identify a rare skill their industry will value in 5 years. They build that skill in 3 focused bursts. Use a single project to display it, and then leverage that project into a role. They didn't work 10 times harder. They worked 10 times smarter by concentrating effort where it multiplied. Or consider daily life. A parent overwhelmed by tasks looks not to add more hours, but to redesign morning routines to remove friction. They stack small changes, prepping clothes at night, simplifying breakfast, delegating one task. And suddenly mornings run smoother. The parent's brain shifts from firefighting to engineering. That is strategic intelligence at home. Across all examples, the pattern repeats. Observe carefully, map outcomes, find leverage, and execute with disciplined review. Over time, the brain adjusts. It prefers the moves that produced results. Your attention sharpens. Your default is no longer reaction, but design. That shift is the practical heart of the hack and the engine of the 10x multiplier. So, here's the truth. There is no secret pill, no miracle app, no overnight transformation. The real brain hack is a mindset. It's the decision to stop reacting and start designing your thoughts. It's the discipline to see your life as a chessboard, not a battlefield of impulses. Every time you pause before reacting, every time you step back to see the full picture, every time you choose strategy over emotion, your brain rewires itself. It gets sharper, faster, more deliberate. That is how you become 10 times smarter, not in theory but in action. Machiavelli's ruthless secret was never about manipulation. It was about awareness. He taught that the world rewards those who understand it, not those who wish it were different. The rulers, the thinkers, the creators who rise, they all share one trait. They see the hidden patterns in human behavior. They anticipate moves before others make them. They control outcomes because they control themselves first. That is the essence of this hack. You are not just trying to survive chaos. You are learning to use it. When you start applying this daily, something remarkable happens. The noise that used to overwhelm you starts to make sense. Problems that once felt random begin to reveal structure. You stop wasting energy on emotional reactions and start funneling that energy into precision. Every decision becomes an experiment. Every obstacle becomes data. You think faster because you think cleaner. You speak less but say more. You work less but achieve more. This is how intelligence compounds, not through more effort, but through more awareness. And here's the real power. You can start right now. Choose one element of the Machiavellian method and test it today. Maybe you decide to see the full board. Spend one day observing instead of reacting. Notice how people move, what they hide, what they chase. Maybe you practice anticipation. Plan your next 3 steps before you make your first one. Or maybe you try ruthless clarity. Stop sugarcoating reality. Look at what's truly in front of you and make your next move from truth, not emotion. Whatever you pick, act on it today, because knowledge means nothing without application. The moment you apply even one part of this mindset, you'll feel the shift. You'll start thinking differently, calmer, sharper, more aware. You'll see connections you've never noticed. And you'll realize that intelligence isn't something you're born with. It's something you build, step by step, choice by choice, by mastering how your mind works. This is the true Machiavellian transformation. Not coldness, not cruelty, but control. Control over yourself, over your reactions, over your destiny. Once you see the world through this lens, you can never unsee it. You begin to move differently. You begin to think like a strategist. You begin to win quietly, not because you're lucky, but because you're deliberate. If this video opened your eyes to a new way of thinking, then don't let it end here. Subscribe to Psych Algorithm for more insights like this, where psychology, strategy, and power come together to make you unstoppable. Like this video, if it sparked something in you, share it with someone who needs to stop reacting and start thinking. And most importantly, take one Machiavellian principle and use it today. Because the world doesn't reward the loudest or the busiest. It rewards the most strategic. Your mind is the most powerful weapon you'll ever own. Sharpen it, train it, use it. And the next time life throws chaos your way, don't react. Think like Machiavelli, and watch how everything begins to shift in your favor.